Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the third channel finance video. Did you know when you die, you still have to pay taxes? That's right, your estate is taxed if you have more than £325,000 worth of just stuff around, because the general rule for taxation is when money moves from person to person, that is the point at which the government tries to tax it. It's a pretty simple, pretty easy rule, but it does mean that when you die, technically speaking, your money moves from you to someone else because you're no longer alive to keep that money, and therefore those people are effectively paying tax by having your estate pay that tax. However, this leaves a little bit of a loophole because something you can do pretty much unlimitedly throughout your life is give gifts to people. You can give gifts for birthdays, you can give gifts for no reason other than I have money and I'd like to give it to you, and as long as it definitely is a gift, it is tax-free. However, this presents a little bit of a loophole because you might think, oh, if you're about to die, give all of your money away so you don't have to pay tax on it. And interestingly enough, there actually is a little quirk in this, in that gifts are tax-free unless you die in the next 7 years. That's right, people you give gifts to will be charged inheritance tax if you give away more than $325,000, the limit for that inheritance tax, in the 7 years before your death. The rate will actually increase or decrease slowly as time goes past. So if I, 6 years and 364 days ago, give you $325,000 because I really believe in you, and then I get hit by a bus, you're not suddenly hit by, the full 40% tax that would have happened if I got hit by the bus and given you money then. But it's basically a way to stop you planning for your death because most people don't intend to die 7 years in the future. Pro tip with Toycat. Bet you didn't know that. Or maybe you do, I'm not sure about your particulars. But it raises a really interesting question, which is like, so why is it that you pay tax when you die? And why is it that we're so committed to this that we had to work out the weirdest loopholes towards the gift-free exemption? Or even better yet, why can you give gifts to people without paying money? Or the reverse, obviously you should you shouldn't be taxed on gifts you give to people. How is it that we manage to do this, but we decide, how do we decide all the taxes we put? Because a lot of them feel really unfair, right? I mean, the fact that you pay in the UK, and most European countries, you pay about 20% of every single thing you buy outside of select goods like children's car seats, home energy, and children's clothes. Also, most food is 0% as well. But like, why is it that you pay taxes on these sorts of events? Doesn't that seem really mean? And the simple answer is something I figured we could go to with another one of these high quality MS Paint videos. So the simple concept behind taxation that will help you out a lot if you ever want to effectively plan, because here's the deal. Whenever I make videos, someone's going to be like, oh, Toycat, you want to pay less tax, you monster. The answer is this: no. Obviously, not knowing about taxes, not knowing how to plan for these sorts of things is the sort of thing that will lead to you paying too much tax. And the thing about taxation is you can always give more. If you think you've been undertaxed, you can always give more money to the government. They do accept that, but you can never just pay less than the amount that they think they're owed. The government, when they request an amount of money from you, you don't get to go, actually, I think I deserve to pay less. No, but you can choose to pay more, which is why making a big mistake and accidentally gifting someone some money that they have to pay a 40% tax on is a really bad idea. But yeah, let's talk about the principles behind this, because interestingly enough, whenever money moves from one person to another, we're going to use these high quality Microsoft Paint arrows right here to prove this one, then taxation is paid. The reason as to why is probably a pragmatic one. This is the modern principle in pretty much every major country. When money is moving from two people, there's two people involved, and therefore it's a lot harder to lie about what it is. For instance, a wealth tax, it's really hard to pin down what someone's worth. That information just isn't widely available. But when I make a transaction, say I buy a £10, I don't even know. I buy some cheese from the supermarket owned by the female version of me that you can see right there. We planned this one poorly by having her there. Actually, let's just make it smaller. There we go. So let's say we go to the supermarket, and the supermarket that female me owns, and I buy some cheese for £10. So then I would pay VAT, sales tax, if you live in the United States. Goods and sales tax, I think it's called in Canada. But like, you pay a tax when you buy a thing of about 20% every single time you buy a thing. And that's because you are transferring money from one person to another, or to a business, arguably in most cases. But even if the supermarket was independently owned by a female version of me, then even then I would pay that 20% because it's moving from one person to another. And when you have two parties kind of accounting for something, it's a lot harder to cheat. If we go with another example, if I want to employ female Toycat, for instance, I want to hire her to help promote my videos, because videos about tax just aren't very sexy. No one wants to, taxation is one of those things people just don't want to talk about. It's boring, right? It's like, it's all numbers and stuff. Who cares? Probably one of the reasons people do overpay in so many places. But it's like, okay, so I'm going to employ female Toycat. If I want to employ that person's going to be paid in my dime, I have to, because I'm about to give them money, I have to give them, it's about 10%, the amount varies by country, but it's about 10 to 15%, and then that person, like, obviously, I guess these arrows all going up to the government. Yeah, this diagram makes sense. That person is then, when they receive that money, then also on the hook for some extra money because, oh, guess what? It also turns out that not only have you paid them money, but they've received money, and that means they're liable for tax of, depending on the amount. In the UK, it's between 29% and 47%, depending on how much they earn. But you know what? We'll just leave that right there, because also interestingly, when even though you pay VAT on that banana, or that cheese, I think I said we bought, also when they receive that and they make a profit on that, they also pay a corporation tax, which right now, I think it's sitting at 21% in the UK. So basically, the way things work is when money moves from person to person, that's the point at which it is taxed. When you die, technically speaking, there's a big, female toy cat has killed me because, you know what, she realizes that I'm never going to be with her because I am her. And as a result of that, when I die, I'm brutally assassinated. I've got a will, which, fun fact, is stored in my fridge. And that's going to be important information one day. Someone needs to note that one down. But, when that happens, my money is going to effectively be moving from me to female toy cat, who suspiciously wrote that will. And as a result, my estate, before she can get that money, because I'm worth significantly more than 325,000, in my dreams at least. Actually, no, because my bank would take back the money in their mortgage, I think, if I was worth 325,000, they'd pay the inheritance tax, which is 40%. There we go. Wow. Now you understand how things work. When money moves from person to person, taxes are paid. That's what VAT is. That's what, when you... Here's a fun fact, just as a little fun one. If you want to pay someone £50,000 as their net salary, like the amount they receive, you're paying, they're paying, from the 74,000 you'd have to give them for that, 24,000 is going to taxes, insurance, pension stuff, and then you have to pay 9,000 in national insurance, basically healthcare, if you want to think about it that way, as well as towards their pension, meaning the cost of paying someone 50,000 is actually 85,000. The thing to me that's interesting, because the reality is even though you're looking at all these numbers on the same graph, but the way it works for most people is probably something more like this, right? There's like there's person A, there's person B, wait, this is person D, there's person C, and there's person D. They're a Jew now, apparently. So, you got 4 people, and, realistically, the way it works for most of these situations, right, is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pay for cheese from the supermarket, and then I pay my 20% cheese tax, which is just on all goods. Actually, wait, it's not on food. Okay, I buy a cheese knife. There we go. Nailed it. I'm going to use the I'm gonna use the text tool for this so you can actually read it. So you pay a 20% cheese tax, and that's fine. And then that the man who owns the supermarket wants to hire a very large employee, so they pay the 29 to 47% tax, or they pay the 10 to 15% tax to employ them, and then they pay themselves that 29 to 47% tax for the benefit of being employed. As you can see, we got another line going right here. And then when that person dies, they intend to leave their money to their kids. And when that happens, there's a 40% happening right there. However, most people therefore only see a tiny part of this equation right here, right? Like, we can talk about many other taxes, like when the man who owns the supermarket decides that he wants to, buy some petrol from person D, who is a star. So they want to buy some fuel. They also have to pay fuel duties, and if you want to buy a house, you pay there's lots of additional taxes on specific things that we try to discourage or encourage. But as far as like the major tax types go, usually speaking, you transfer money from one person to a lot of different people, and as that money transfers from person to person, it hits some form of tax depending on the transaction. And this is something that always gets me thinking. Like, we have so many different types of taxes. Like, oh yeah, we've got, for instance, capital gains tax. If you buy something and then you sell it and you make some money, you pay tax on that. If you make a profit, you pay taxes unless you have a trading allowance, which, if you're curious, the first £1,000 worth of things you sell, you don't have to pay tax. After that, you do. But the thing I'm trying to say with all of this is that the key thing, the reason that it always feels unfair, is because you always pay no matter what it is when you transfer from person to person. And although it seems, if you look at every individual transaction, they're pretty reasonable. I mean, I would argue the fact that the highest taxes we have are generally speaking on income, which is something we want people to do. We want people to have jobs. We want people to employ for jobs. But we're basically discouraging labor in that way by making employees, people who sell their time, people responsible for the majority of taxes. Again, up to 47%. You know, even if you think like a lawyer who earns $500,000 a year is rich, the fact that we ask them to pay a higher rate than we ask a corporation to pay at their 21%, or even that we ask a dead person to pay, or even that we ask, like the cheese knife company to pay, the cheese knife store run by the lovely Jewish man. See, look at this. They've got personalities now. The square man is shocked. The triangle is a sexy triangle. I don't know how we're gonna draw a sexy triangle. Look at those feet. That's and look at those arms. You know, it's the only shape with body parts now. Am I right? Yeah. Look at that smile. That's a smile you could fall in love with right there. And then the big employee is he's not happy because he just learned he has type 2 diabetes. There we go. So there we go. Now if this helps you understand things easier, every single person in this feels like either you're getting screwed by doing too much, or you look at the other people and you go, why aren't they, paying as much? I would like, because also, the reality of this is, it seems really brutal that like, oh, every time you do anything that involves another person, there's a percentage of that taxed. But in reality, that's then all going towards the same grand, we're going to use a red line for this, that's all going towards the same grand government, right? So from all of these different points, it goes right back over to there. That's where, you're effectively just all choosing to fund this one particular thing. And that one particular thing then, effectively most of the things, although some things the government does is infrastructure, which benefits everyone by just existing. It's the improvement of this collective nation we live in. A lot of the things that government does is just giving money to various types of people. In fact, or like providing services in lieu of money. For instance, healthcare in the UK, one of the things I'm most proud that the government does is effectively looking at who's the oldest person here. I guess Sad Square that has type 2 diabetes makes the most from that free healthcare, right? Because obviously they can take most advantage of that, so they get the biggest, thickest line in exchange. Oh, look how thick this line is. Yeah, so much money. They're gonna die soon. So they get a lot of money. Whereas, for instance, the person who is running their own little supermarket, because they're a small business, they're not eligible for a lot of types of reliefs and rates and stuff. So their line is really small. And so that's what makes this even weirder, is that all these lines that are all this money that is going from a thing to a thing is effectively then going back in the form of very different services. And I honestly kind of lost the point of this video halfway through it. But if there's any lesson you took from Toy Cat drawing in MS Paint, it's that if you buy things from female Toy Cat, not only do you have to pay her money, but you have to pay the government money too. Also, just as a fun fact, let's find this out right now. That you have to pay sales tax on drugs in America. You might think like, oh, when you deal drugs because it's illegal, like that's fine, right? But fun fact, I forget which states it is, but it's like Louisiana apparently. Even if you have an illegal product, you still have to pay sales tax on those. Also, what is this little tax sheet right here? So you still have to pay tax and like get a tax stamp, even if you're doing an illegal transaction, because the fact that it's not legal does not affect the fact that primarily governments are a money-raising institution and then a money-spending institution, which means the number one thing that a government does in your life. I'll up it like one of the things that I guess this video is here to talk about. Maybe the ideology behind it is the interesting thing that a lot of people don't realize is the number one. Like we like, I'm a lot of people think the biggest oppression that can happen is like this social idea of like, oh, if we pass a policy that says it's not okay for gays to marry, like, oh, that's real bad, and that's a big, oh, this video is going down a dark direction, but like, I'm gonna have to finish this thought. Someone's gonna be like, oh, Toy Cat, you're against that? No, big fan of letting people do whatever they want. That's my big direction. But the biggest power that can be taken away from you is your economic power to make decisions for yourself in the world, right? And that is why when you have a big body which is maybe responsible for doing that for you, maybe the one thing they care about most more than anything else is how they get the money. If in a world where we're seeing COVID regulations, which is like maybe some of the biggest you being asked to do things by the government, you can see how easily they're flouted because they're entirely uneconomically backed, right? They're just, oh, please don't have Christmas, please don't have Thanksgiving or whatever it is. Even isolating for 2 weeks is something that is very unenforced in most places. But you better believe that when you buy a cheese knife from the nice Jewish man at the store, or when you pay your employee who works at the store for you, or when you die, you better believe that there is someone coming after you and making sure that you pay the percentage that's owed. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's the moral philosophy part of this that I really didn't want to get into, because, like, you know, everyone has their own opinion on what should a collective state do. Because, you know, if you're involved in like a lot of sub communities, if you've got a big family and you're part of a church and you run a charity and you've got like a really good local community, of course you think government would be small. And if you are in an area where you don't have any of those things, if you're an orphan who grew up, a religious and therefore, or maybe even a bad religion, the religion did bad things to you, and also, your local community isn't particularly, friendly. You're going to need more of these thick lines to go from there to there and backwards, right? So there's the kind of argument about like how big should these lines be and why. But the argument is that besides those arguments about how big or small should the lines be, the whole thing is that this government thing right here exists to stand between you and a thing you want to get, because they use the money for the greater good, for the betterment, but for better reasons than you could use. And if you think that you have, again, the reminder of this video is, if you feel like it's unfair, the reason is whenever money moves from person to person, you pay a tax, unless that money is I was going to go down a whole different route with this video. My point was meant to be that, like, oh yeah, everyone always assumes like, oh yeah, you only pay tax on some things. It's like, no, whenever it moves from person to person. And I was going to try and disprove the loopholes, like, oh, when you gift someone money, that's free, right? And then you could just gift them in exchange for the employment. One, that's illegal because you can't pretend it's a gift when it's in exchange for something. You can't also, there are big taxes for employment because that's a thing we deem people to do. If you want to sell someone something, there is a 20% VAT unless it is VAT exempt. Fun fact, right here, YouTube, certain advertising services are VAT exempt. There you go, fun fact. And also, fun fact before we go right here is that, like, therefore, a lot of people think, even, like, if you sell things, like on eBay, if you make more than £1,000 of profit in a year, technically speaking, you're meant to pay taxes. It's just, I don't know if people will. Where did this video go? I'm not even sure. I think I accidentally made some grand libertarian argument that the most important thing that someone can do for you is giving you money or not taking it away from you, or vice versa. But I wasn't even trying. I swear. I just wanted to say that that's how taxes work. You'd be dead, you pay tax because your money has to go somewhere. You get a job, your person who pays you money has to pay tax, and so do you. And you want to buy something, you have to pay tax to buy the thing, and the person who gets the money has to pay tax on that too. Generally speaking, people pay tax when they give people money, with the very few widely spread exceptions being like everyone was like, oh, close the tax loopholes. Generally speaking, there aren't any, but that's a video for another day. And the only widely accepted, like, oh, let's not pay tax, is if you say to this is me and this is my wait, who's the last person I didn't? I think I had I think it was a locksmith who was just like, you can pay me £100 and I can write you a receipt, or you can give me £80 in cash and I can leave right now. And it's like, oh, there we go. There's a winner. And the other one that people accept, because that seems like dodgy, right? Everyone's always like, oh, dodgy builders. But also, if you tip someone, even though they're meant to pay tax on the tips, just no one declares it because there's no record of the payment being made. Because that is a part of why people like recordless transactions, because it allows tips and things like that to happen. And where did this video go? I don't even know. This is why it's the third channel, because I'm not good at making a point this late in the evening. So yeah. Just remember, female toy cat loves you. Female toy cat lives for you. And you owe her more than a few laser beams. That's what I'm saying. Also, do you like my characters I gave life to? I think I'm a pretty good artist. Just saying. Doing well for myself. Also, wait. If you're watching this video and you can make... we're too late in the video. But if you want to... If you can make thumbnails, hit me up. If you can make, like, my first channel style thumbnails. I've realized, like, I have, like, someone... I even make thumbnails myself, or I use someone who's, like, not, like, in the YouTube game. If you think you'd make good clickbait thumbnails, hit me up. I'm going to mention this in another video, but, yeah, if this video is a train wreck, I might as well use it as a way to say, hey, if you'd like to make some money, you can do that. Also, when I pay you that money, there is technically a taxational event occurring. So, do you want to make some tax... I was going to say tax-free. Do you want to make some taxable income? improve your country's state? Do you think that the government needs a bit more money and or you need some more money? Because that's what most people actually do. All you have to do is apply by going to send me an email at thisgmail.com. There we go. This was all an ad for people. I want to find people who can make thumbnails. But if you got to the end of a 20-minute video, that's probably not you. Anyway, thank you for watching. Third channel. Really don't care. Goodbye.